What's up, guys? Got a radioactive build to show off. I have not done one of these in a minute and realized I should probably do at least one in the last 20 or 30 builds. I should have had one up, but wanted to use some parts and incorporate those parts into the build. So I really wanted to do this blue anodized coin bezel because it shows off really well. And it shows off really well against bead blasted. So I've got a bead blasted 710 case here. And those show off really well against each other. So I went through and tried to figure out what radioactive dial I could use. And I had a blue anodized one in there. So if you get it in the light, it kind of looks silver straight on, but you can tell it has a blue tinge to it. So it is a blue anodized. So grab that, and that worked really well against that. Then I grabbed a blue handset. I know it's like 205 right now, so it's tough to show the two hands here. But PloProf style hands. Had one of these seconds hands I had not used yet. Basically, it's a white hand, the blue tip, blue on the backside with a couple little white lines. Kind of a cool seconds hand. As you guys may or may not know, I don't experiment too much with seconds hands because I've had so much issue with places who will make aftermarket seconds hands. I want to have some variety. People receive their watch and the seconds hands off because they don't make the shaft on the bottom side long enough to really get secure on the pinion that sticks up. And they make barely any contact, and if you get them a good whack, pops right off. And the only way for me to really test them is whack them into my hand real tough, or real hard. And the issue with that is, A, you verify whether it's going to fall off or not, but B, I might move something back here that could cause a later issue. Something with the pallet fork, anything I could put any adverse pressure back there. That's why you don't like to drop your watches or anything like that. But so there's no real good way to test them until somebody says, hey, this fell off, and I go, all right, I'm not going to use that anymore. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to use any more from that company, because it costs me a lot to have them shipped back to me, to fix them, ship them back, and then I normally include something as and I'm sorry for it. And that normally is like $20 to ship back, $20 to ship to them. I throw something in there, it's $40-50 plus my time. I make 120, 150 on each build, somewhere in there. So if I have one issue, I basically, apologize a lot and don't make any money off that watch. So I'd rather try and avoid those when possible. So this one seems to be working great, and I haven't had any issue with it yet, or this company. And I know other people who've used this company have not complained about it. So, in theory, all is well. So that said, did the bead blasted case, went through and I found a bead blasted, so this is a milled caseback. That's a stock caseback that we mill everything off. Then we laser it, and the lasering kind of gave it a little bit of a blue hue to it on the edges. So I thought that works perfect. And I didn't have anything blue-esque with these crowns. Now, you can torch them a little bit. You can kind of give them some iridescent kind of look to them, but you'll get pinks and purples in there, not just blues. So didn't want to do any kind of torching, so I just kept it stock silver. And then I went with a caseback ring that was just stock silver. So got some nice silvering in there, some nice silvering there, so those kind of run together. And then I had a blue strap from my buddy Jonathan Gillespie over at Wristbound that had a center in it that kind of worked well with kind of that pale color to kind of go with the bead blasted case. So, and we have a brushed preview buckle on here as well. And that is the build. Oh, I went to grab a silver insert, but the silver was kind of went with this, but it's a different kind of silver look to it. I grabbed titanium because titanium has a nice gray to it, so that gray works well with the bead blasting. And then where everything's lasered out, that's matte silver, also goes well with everything. So a lot of cool things going on there that kind of go well with each other. Even that insert kind of has, that titanium kind of has a blue-gray, you know, battleship gray kind of look to it, which goes well with the dial. So I thought everything on this turned out pretty awesome. Bezel will turn left, it'll turn right. It's on there decently tight with the bead blasting. It has, you know, a nice rough patch to work against. Automatic mechanical. I'll wind this back down. So you can wind it, wear it, put it in a watch winder, but if it's dead or you're not going to be very active, make sure you wind it just a little bit. And how you do that is you back that crown off the threads. Now these ones on a 710 case are inlaid a little bit. See how this comes? And then it's inside it a little bit. I made sure to use a bezel that didn't come over on it too much, but you can see, if we can focus up there, it comes over just a little bit. But so you're not being able to grab as much here. You basically grab most of it on the bottom. That's where the most surface area is, all the way from here to here. So just throwing that out there. Some of these bigger bezels, sometimes people want me to use shark tooth or something larger. And if we're using a 710 case, it can almost come over like into the middle of this. And if you don't have watches from me where you're used to these crowns and such, I don't normally recommend it, just because you're like, I like that watch I got from, but I'm always fighting this. If you've had other watches from me and you've got your technique down on how you know, used to it, it's not as big of a problem. But I definitely won't do one for a customer's first watch with a bigger bezel that comes out over this a little bit, just because it's tough to kind of fight this thing. Anyway, you back the crown off the threads until you hear it and feel it clicking. You'll see it's coming off the threads. You'll see there's a little bit of play in there. But you will hear it. You will hear the winding on it. So a wind is a turn this way. Turning it towards you doesn't do anything. But especially this one, it's a lot easier to go back and forth with your winding. So I'm only putting like third rotations in this. That's a wind, nothing. That's a wind, nothing. That's a wind, nothing. But it keeps the finger spacing. Keeps me from starting to wind it back down onto the crown tube. Anyway, 4 or 5 seconds of this, that mixed with the rotor movement, which inside here, you've got a signed rotor in the backside, so this is an automatic. That mixed with that will keep your time throughout the day. But if it's dead or you're not going to be very active, make sure you wind it a little bit. If you're driving or something like that, you don't want to be losing time because you're not getting this rotor moving. So do this for a little bit, 4 or 5 seconds. That'll be good. If you do it for something closer to 20 seconds, like about what I've been doing, you're going to max out your 31-hour power reserve on it. You can wind it all day, so don't worry about that. So you can just keep winding if you just want to make sure you're wound out. It just won't accept any more. There I have reversers back there that just won't accept any more input. But anyway, when you're happy with your winding, you're going to pull it to the one and only click. You can now set your time. You'll notice you've got a wobble crown that deflects lateral pressure from going into the stem and into the movement. So when you're pushing and prying on it, you're not putting any adverse pressures on anything. If you kind of pull it a little bit, you won't even really feel that. But if you don't pull it back, you'll feel it kind of moves all around. You can go from winding it to setting the time, but you cannot go from setting the time back to winding it. See your back. See how close I am to the threads? I'm actually threading it on right now. It's threaded on, and I'm not. There's no winding. You don't hear any clicking. So you're going to go from winding to setting the time. To go back to winding, you have to screw it all the way back down, get that stem to go back into the movement, and clock itself into that area. So while it's out here, you can set your time. Not a hacking movement, so it's going to keep going. Okay, Google, what time is it? 2:20 p.m. When you're good, you're going to push it over, get it out of that time setting, and then wind it down. The reason I kind of push it over is because, and I kind of click it into that, doesn't happen all the time, but I'd say 1 out of 10 of these watches that I build even though it's not out there in that time setting, as I showed you, you have moved yourself into a time setting, okay? You can't go back into the wind setting. You can just kind of take it out of the time setting. Now it's a no reel setting. But sometimes you can push it back over to where it would be in that winding kind of area. And as you go to start winding it down, the hands will move, because it's not really out of that setting. So if you kind of push it over real quick or whatever, you're kind of throwing that stem in there a little bit to just make sure it is out of that. As you saw with this one, you didn't really get that, but I have had ones where I'm out here and I can set the time. It's at 2:21, and right in here, see, oh, how we moved it a little bit when I was getting closer. I was actually trying to see, I didn't throw it. Okay, that time didn't do it, which is good. It's normally not supposed to. Once it's not pulled back out here, it's not supposed to do that. So I am in that time. So you can see I'm in that time setting. There's no spot to go back. See, I can just go back and forth. There's no clicking. But right here I can start winding it down. There are times I've had watches that I've built that in that position right there, it would move the hands just slightly as you made that first turn. Once it grabbed on and it kind of pushed that stem in a little bit, then it took it out of that setting. So that's why I always say, pop it over, just make sure it's out of that setting. But that's why, because I've had them before where without you doing that first turn on there, that stem wasn't over far enough. But just a little info in the middle of a watch video. But just so you have a little bit of info on that. As with every bolt, it's going to come with matching beads. Entirely up to you whether you wear those or not. But they are matching and they are awesome. Made by the wife. This will come in a blue radioactive box. This will come with watch cleaner. This is good on all glass and metal parts. So everything here in the center, non-streaking, non-toxic, non-residue. Will come with some leather conditioner. This is good to keep this strap perfectly soft. If you ever feel that it's not as soft as you like, apply it on the front and back. A little bit will go a long way. Let it soak in. Work it around a little bit. We'll soften that thing right back up. And then lastly, you're going to get some fine scratch remover. This is Novus 2 from Amazon, just repackaged. It's like Poly Watch. It's for your acrylic glass because you can scratch it. If you do, no big deal. Put a tiny bit of that on it and buff it out using your included microfiber. If the scratches up and down, go left and right, filling that scratch, kind of haze it, buff it, and should be gone. If it's not, wait 10-15 minutes, go back to it, do it again. You're kind of layering the fill in there. If you don't let it solidify, you will work it back out, kind of like working with drywall mud. If you get back into mudding something and the mud has not, hardened, you'll pull chunks back out of it. So, you'll pull that little strip of whatever you've put in there back out. So that's the build. Sorry for the 13-minute video. Normally I don't get into that extra stuff, but when I'm thinking of that stuff, sometimes I don't know if I've ever explained it, or if new customers or new people who are getting watches like this haven't seen me go over that stuff that I think is basic knowledge. It's basic for me because I've been doing it for a while on this platform, but sometimes this is the first watch on this platform that anybody's ever received, if they're not familiar with Vostok. But that's it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out for this long-ass video. If you want me to build you something custom and unique, reach out and I'll see what I can do. And if you want to continue to see videos like this, like and subscribe as I put them up all the time. Thanks, guys.